Eugene, Springfield, Lane County, Oregon. Support our work. Make a donation at strpod.com. Thank you for listening to Spent the Rent podcast. And now, here's your host, Patty Rose.
Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am your host, Patty Rose. I want to start today with a personal note. I've been dealing with a serious eye condition. It's called CSR, and it's kept me from working, and it's been a tough stretch. The symptoms are extreme light sensitivity, difficulty focusing. I've had migraines, etc. Doctors say it could be, it will heal itself, which is a good thing, but it could take 2 to 4 months, 2 to 6 months even. And I'm about 1 month in, so it's pretty scary. As an independent contractor, I'm a barber. Short-term disability and unemployment resources have been very limited. So I've been forced to set up a GoFundMe. It's going to be, the link will be in the show notes. If you'd like to support, I would totally appreciate it. So, you know, conversations about mental health, survival, and community seem to hit close to home right now and always. So I'm joined today by a good friend of mine, Rebekah. Rebekah, welcome.
Hi.
So we were going to talk, we've been talking behind the scenes for a long time. We've known each other for, 25 plus years. And, you know, we've talked about doing an episode about mental health and different ways that we can connect with it. You've done a lot of talks at different places. I want to get to know more about that. And so, yeah, let's just get started. And like I said, please, if you'd like to support, you can go to strpod.com and you can make a donation there. There's my Venmo for the podcast. Also, you can go on the show notes and find the link to the GoFundMe. I'm hoping to be back to work in about a month and a half, but that's the best I can do right now. I don't know what the future holds. So any help would be much appreciated. So we're going to talk about mental health today. We're going to start opening the door. Would you be comfortable sharing a little bit of your own perspective on mental health, primarily in Lane County?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look around, Eugene, there's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot of people on the corners, you know, smoking their fentanyl or you know, doing whatever they're doing, talking to themselves. And I feel like addiction and mental health and homelessness, all of that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I mean, the place to start would be hopefully them wanting to come and get the help that they need.
Right. I have had mental health struggles of my own, and I'd like to share if you would like to hear that. You know, and you and I have known each other for a long time, and I don't talk about it a lot. I've done a lot of episodes about suicide prevention on the podcast. I've struggled through different levels of suicidal ideation. When I say that, I don't want to be like, oh, like it's at this point in my life, I'm super capable of knowing my triggers and knowing how to remind myself how valuable I am, that kind of stuff, you know? And so there's ways to work through it, but I have a lot of empathy for the people in different levels of struggles with mental health. And I'd like to hear you talk a little bit of your personal experience. I mean, I've dealt with depression and all kinds of things. This issue, obviously, that I'm dealing with my eye. I mean, my left eye is a lazy eye. My right eye is just earlier today when I woke up, there was like a spot spinner where I just basically I don't know. I can't focus on stuff very well. And even doing this podcast is very difficult. So talk a little bit about your experience individually, personally, if you'd be okay with that, of struggles with mental health.
Well, I mean, since I can remember, I've struggled with like depression and not feeling, adequate enough in life. I have I have trichotillomania. You know,
what is that?
And it's an obsessive compulsive disorder where you subconsciously pull your hair out. It's usually found in girls, and it's usually because something has happened to them traumatic when they were younger, and they don't know how to communicate it or tell an adult. And but
yeah, and this is gonna we've known each other forever, and we're close friends. So this, like, I remember the first time I met you, and this is offensive. You know this, so like it's nothing new. My friend Alfie's like, you gotta meet my friend Bald Becky.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, what? And he's like, dude, you got to be cool because she pulls her hair out. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, it's a nervous twitch. Just be cool, man. She's rad, you know? And so like, and that's how I first was aware of you. And then I got to know you, and we spent a lot of time together when I was in my early 20s. You're like 30 years older than me.
I'm only 30. Okay.
Yeah. Now you're 30. Oh, anyway, I've passed you up. No, but, and I mean that I'm sorry. It's so offensive, and I mean it, but like, you have always been so open with your experiences that I think we joked with you about it because it was the 90s, first of all. So we were we were allowed to be sexist dickheads.
Yeah,
but like, yeah, but like,
excuse my language.
No, I really do appreciate, I got to know you, and I think that's what connected us was struggles with mental health. I've always been very open with it. I was, even at 15, 16, 17 years old, I was very open with the fact that I was having depression and anxiety and all this different stuff. And so I'm proud of the fact that you've used it to help people, because that's the best medicine. So talk to me about some of the talks that you've done around the community, and the reason that I wanted to have you on is because I think that you're such a good advocate for people in the mental health spectrum, so talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I've only been able to speak from experience. I've had a lot of trauma in my and addiction and domestic violence and self-mutilation. Like I have a little bit in every area. So it all stems from me being able to relate.
Yeah.
And not wanting anybody to feel how I felt or ever feel how
I
think
feel. That you come across, at least on social media, as a little bit of a community leader on a different plateau. Like there's a lot of different ways that looks. Sometimes it looks like prominent people in the community. Other times it's kind of more of just different circles, and I think that I know that I have an impact in certain circles, and mine's pretty broad. That's the goal of mine. But like, I see the impact that you have in a positive, like all the women that are just, you go girl, they're so supportive of each other and making sure to do check-ins and that kind of stuff. And I think that's really cool. Where's somebody, do you speak at like schools or?
Well, I actually, okay. I went in Cheshire in 2023 and I went into treatment there with both my children. That was the hardest thing I've ever fucking done. Okay. So I got out going strong 2 years. Well, then I hit some hard patches and I had a 3.5 month relapse. So I, was isolated and hated myself, and my kids just wanted me and I just didn't have it. So I went back to Serenity Lane in Coburg, Oregon, which was the best decision that I've ever made for myself. And so now I have 6 months clean tomorrow, the 26th.
Nice.
And so I'm able to go into like institutions. So I went with my sponsor into Serenity Lane.
Sure.
And I went in there and I talked, hope, strength, and
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that stuff. And I've had my struggles with alcoholism. I've been sober for 9 years and different things.
High five.
Yeah. And so, and it's huge. And there's a lot of support in this community for that. And there's a lot of such a wide range of types of people that welcome everybody. Like, I've had friends that were involved with, recovery in different ways. And so I would go to the 4th of July picnic a lot, and I don't know, there's a lot of really good stuff happening there. The reason that I wanted to have you on is because I think everybody in our community has an impact in a small, big level. I think that you don't have to be making headlines to be able to be newsworthy. Does that make sense? And that's kind of the point of the Spent the Rent podcast. Plus you're so well versed on this and I trust you. We've been good friends for a long time. So what are some simple, is it okay to share? Oh, wait, we got that. What are some simple tips on how to deal with someone who's in some form of crisis? Before you answer, well, go ahead and answer and then I'll talk.
Never tell them to calm down.
Yeah. I think
never ever tell them to stop feeling.
In some ways, validating the feeling is really important because it's natural to feel some of the things that we feel. It may not be rational, but it's natural, and that's okay if it's irrational as long as nobody's being hurt. Like we can process that by taking deep breaths and just slowing down for a minute. I wanted to make sure this is something that my friend, shout out to Blair, she says this a lot, and it's something that I really took to heart. When somebody's coming to you that they're in a crisis, they're not asking for unsolicited advice. So the trick to this that I've learned is to ask as the person hearing the issue, like the trauma dump comes at you and your reaction is like, would you like some advice? Or what do you feel like, maybe guide them to make the decision so that they can have autonomy to feel confidence that they're the one resolving the issue. You just got to support. You just got to be there, So I think that's really big. Listen and remind them that you love them. And then this is where you can give accountability at the same time with also giving nurturing is saying, I'm here to listen. And if it gets too, difficult for my pay grade, then I'll do what I can to help you make the decisions you need to help in this moment so that we can find professional help. And then by just hearing that, sometimes people are like, well, this means accountability. And there's I'm not going to say there's nothing wrong or that there's something wrong, but somebody that's reaching out for help, well, then let's help them. Yeah,
Right,
I think that people
right.
say that as a negative. So yeah, are there any other tips you could think of? I think that saying, just being calm in yourself, even though you're saying calm down, or don't calm down, but leading by example and like softening your tone and that kind of stuff can be really, really helpful.
Being trauma informed, period, because you never know. Like someone's cat dying could have such a profound negative
Right.
effect on somebody where you're just like, it's a fucking cat. And they're like, oh my, that was my life. You never know
Yeah.
what.
That's kind of why I wanted to mention this too, is because we were talking off air and I said something about how consent in mental health is actually really important and it's hard to navigate. So that we have to remember that even though we're struggling in life, you don't know what the person that you're going to tell that to is going through. So you have to kind of almost ask, are you okay with me opening up and telling you some of my issues? I'd like to really vent about it. And then it can be reciprocated, because if you're just dumping it on somebody, then it sometimes doesn't come across as including them. It's just like, you don't matter now because I'm in crisis. And I just think that the answer is to really have a community feel about these kind of things, that we're there for each other to pick up the slack. As long as we hold ourselves accountable, then we can lift our head and know that, we're trying to work through this. I mean, so
Yeah, no, 100%.
One of the things I want to talk about is access to care. The issue in Eugene has been, cahoots being cut is devastating. And I want to look into when it's coming back. Community response is active. As of June 2025, former crisis workers and residents are rallying to bring it back, highlighting its critical, trusted role in crisis response. So without cahoots in effect, and it is in effect in Springfield, I want to be clear on that. If you live in Springfield, so if you're having an issue and you're right on the west side of I-5, just walk over the bridge and then call cahoots. No, but what is something that people can, what are some services that people can look for help? And when you or someone you love is dealing with this. Now, these issues you've mentioned, substance abuse issues, those are maybe different than just a standard mental health issue.
I mean,
kind of go hand in hand.
Mental health and
sure. And the resources are going to be close by, and the people will be knowledgeable. But where's someone that you like to turn someone?
What do you mean?
Where's somebody, if somebody comes to you in crisis, maybe that they're needing to go to behavioral health, maybe they're cutting, you know what I mean? Like, where do you want to turn them? Where would you say? I mean, at that point, maybe emergency room, but like,
yeah, well, I mean, that all depends on how, are you in danger?
Yeah.
Like, are they to that point where you're in danger too? Because if that's the case, then you need bigger help than just.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Where's your natural instinct of the first place to turn?
Actually, just redirect.
Yeah.
Redirect their behavior, redirect their thinking, try and, pray to God that you have the right thing to say to get them, to calm them down and get them off the ledge. Because I mean,
yeah, there might not be time, but I mean,
what about, might run.
What about individually? What if you're feeling like you're feeling low? Where would you kind of think the first place to turn is? And then I want to be clear. If you don't have something that's popping up, that's the problem. It's not on you. It's the community's problem. How do we get outreach to know the answer to that? Because I've asked this a lot of people, and it's like, where would you turn? And they're like, I'm not sure. Well,
I mean, I have a mental health therapist. I mean, I have like a lot of backing because I make sure that I have that safety net around me. So I have my mental health therapist, I have a psychiatrist, I have, someone who absolutely loves me. And,
right. So you're
and
prepared
my sponsor
for that.
And my, Poppy, and I have all these people. My mom, I don't really like to include her in that kind of stuff because she blames herself and I feel like shit about it. But
sure.
I make sure that I have a safety net because I know me and I don't want to ever go back.
I'm the same way.
I'm
the same way. And that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now, where I'm reaching out and asking for help is because I actually need it, and I've never really tried to do that because, I've limped along with my little projects and things like that and made ways people can donate if they want to help me in different ways. But like at this point, it's a much different situation. I'm good today, but in 2 months I could be homeless. Like that's no joke. Like, so, do you think that the services here match what the need is for people for the most part? I mean, if there's always going to be limitations, but do you think do you think that the services match their needs?
Well, there's people that travel here from different states to try and get mental health, and addiction help.
Yeah.
And once they get here, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then they're stuck on the streets. It's a vicious cycle because no one's there. There's no advocates there and they don't know how to advocate for themselves. They just know that Oregon has thousands of dollars that they're getting for mental health help and addiction help, and they don't know where to go. So it's It's just
it's tough to, and that actually is kind of why I wanted to ask that question, is because I don't know the answer.
Like
I don't
want it.
And yes, it's situational,
help,
but in the past in Eugene, you would call cahoots if somebody was having a crisis. So we knew, and because you wanted to talk a little bit about, and this is, don't go too deep into it because I don't want to get too into the weeds of hearsay about this, but you had said something that happened recently at a bar where someone was in a mental health crisis. They came here, they came here from
no, it didn't happen in a bar. Okay, so the Happy's car wash incident. Okay, so allegedly it stabbed 2 police officers and then ran from them into the Happy's car wash. Well, there was cars going through there. And
into the car wash.
Yes, and my one of my good homegirls was working, and you see her run out the door. You see her grab the kid out of the pit that was doing the prep before they go in, and you don't see her come out. And you see on the other side of the cars, you see all these police go in, and so she watched them kill that guy.
Wow.
And so did all the other people in the cars. Who knows if they had kids? So all that is mental anguish and trauma and PTSD and shit.
Right.
But he was here from Texas to get help, and if they have cahoots in Springfield, why didn't they call them?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if there's a weapon though, if there's a weapon or somebody's being violent, cahoots isn't the right resource.
I mean,
unfortunately,
I get that.
Unfortunately,
maybe he was under attack. Maybe he was thinking
sure. But if somebody's using it on someone else, then that becomes I mean, at that point, it's a community safety issue that gets way bigger than the protections of that one individual. As much, and that's difficult sometimes. There's not a right answer to this. I'm glad that this is getting conversations because the policing, they need to constantly be looking at ways to de-escalate. You know, and I talk about it constantly on the podcast, and I'm a huge supporter of de-escalation training, almost ad nauseum. And I worry that it's not being addressed enough. I mean, I talk about it a lot. We had a situation in Springfield where one of my friends that I do a little bit of political work with, Barbara Kenny, her child, adult kid, was going through the process of transition, so wasn't really changed. They were trans female, so Stacy Kenny was their name, and at the time may have been male presenting. That part doesn't matter. They were pulled off to the side of the road, not pulled over. They were already pulled off to the side of the road. Cops came up behind them. They were schizophrenic as well, I believe. Please, like there was mental health issues there regardless, but like cops pulled up behind them, came up, to the window, was what's going on. They didn't really go well, and they went to drive off, and the cop reached in to pull the keys out, and they took off, and then the cop shot them, and so they killed this person who was literally pulled over on the side of the road. So the point is that because it doesn't sit well with some police officer doesn't mean that person deserves to die, and I think that we just have to be really careful how we approach that stuff. And so I hope that there's a lot more training. Cahoots was getting national coverage. It blows my mind that a program so beneficial. I don't know the story of how the funding has been cut. I'm not a journalist, so I'm really hesitant to really try to explain it with the base knowledge that I have of it. I'm going to be interviewing the mayor pretty soon, so hopefully I'll get a chance to ask her.
I really hope. Yeah, do it. Make sure you have some good questions for that.
You talked a little bit about substance abuse, so let's talk about Measure 110. It was passed. They scaled it back in September of 2024. Possession is a misdemeanor again of drugs, but counties like Lane are supposed to steer people into treatment through deflection programs instead of jail. It's important to say that drugs are not the only driver of homelessness and mental health issues. Poverty, untreated mental illness, lack of housing, those are a huge role also, but often society looks down on people who are struggling no matter the cause. You could be a drug addict or you could have mental health issues and people will throw you away. I mean, that's literally the way that it feels.
Well, I'm just telling you, I had mental health issues and then I just decided to self-medicate to feel better.
Right.
I had, plus all the trauma on top of it, undealt with trauma and, not talked about and not even unbagged, it was just all went with me. So, I mean, I was kind of looked out for a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you remember the girl in the tutu with the you remember 2 swords on her back and the short shirt that said boss walking down Highway 99. That was me. Yeah. 2 katanas. That was me. I was crazy. I was going to cut people's heads off. I was looked out from my trauma. Yeah. Wow. And on drugs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, thank you for sharing that because that's a reality and you're still, and you will always be one of my friends, maybe in that moment I might've stayed on the other side of the street, but I don't know. I think that there's a way where you can still break through sometimes when you have people in the community that know you and love you. That like there's there's moments of clarity, even though you might be so lost. There's moments, but like I don't know. Sometimes seeing people you care about from a past time makes it harder when you're in that current state of delusion. So,
well, I mean, I'm definitely divinely guided. Like God has definitely got my back for sure. 100%.
Sure.
Because
that's usually what people with katanas say. Just joking. No, but do you think that the community understands that drug use isn't the whole picture? The community as a whole.
I mean, well, yeah, because it's not.
I mean, I think that I just think that a lot of times the blame goes on the homeless people, you know, and it's like, wait a minute, like, yeah, you don't want them on the curb. You know, we need policies that are going to affect it. But like, look at what's happening in DC, where they're basically like, we're going to kick them out, and make sure that we clean up this mess. But where are they going to go? They're still going to exist.
I will say most of it has to do with the trash everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they had like dumpsters and places for them to get water and like a place where, you know, like they have the sleep sites, but not very many people can go in those. Like,
I know it's and the money spent in Eugene is astronomical on helping homelessness. And there's a lot of incredible stuff that gets done, but it's still not enough because it's just not streamlined in a way that it's actually helping too much. There's so many holes. So many people fall through the cracks. You have to like, it's almost like it is like a job to be able to like maintain enough resources to get by, you know? So unless you're so unstable permanently that you can get community support, because there's people that like me and you that have moments where, and then they actually get their stuff together and then they can have a functioning part of society. And it doesn't really, a lot of times take that long for that switch to happen. Like I'm saying 6 months and you can see tremendous change, you know? And so, so I don't know. I just think it's really, I think Eugene does a really good job, but I really worry that there's so many holes still. Springfield there's a Springfield Stabilization Center controversy happening July 30th of this year. A couple months ago, Lane County Board of Commissioners voted 4-1 to buy land in North Springfield for a stabilization center, which would be a 24/7 crisis treatment site. The only no vote was obviously David Lovell. Very Christian of him not to want to help people, saying that he hadn't had enough community input, which is literally code word. Sometimes that's true, but something that the community needs that people would appreciate. If you're not going to allow, and you live in Lane County and you're in NIMBY, that you're not going to allow a homeless place near your house or a mental health facility near your house, then I don't care what your opinion is, to be honest. Not you, but just in general, because you see it. And then when you want to build the resources and people say no, you know, then that, and I've obviously been very vocal about my disdain for David Lovell. David Lovell is a county commissioner for the Springfield area that ran against Joe Berney and beat him a while ago. And he was down when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening. He was standing in front of business with an AR, and there's photos that were leaked, and that was a couple days before the election. And unfortunately, with a lot of people in Springfield, that probably garnered him more support. But he was the lone no vote. In mental health struggles and homelessness is our biggest issue. And so when you have a community stabilization center going in, and then he votes no to it, then he doesn't want to fix the problem. So shout out to David Lovell. We both live on the other side of I-5 now from Springfield, but how do you think that neighbors would feel about this project landing in Springfield? Do you think that there's pros and cons?
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes, with the mental health stuff, there does come there. I mean, if you look at the Lane County Public Health, on MLK, or mental health, is it mental health?
I'm not sure the name, but sure.
But on MLK, it is right there by the park. You know, there is a lot of crap that goes on there. Yeah. There's places for people to park and like be homeless and like do their drugs and do whatever. And
it's tough. It is tough. The answer, because you've been on both sides of this.
Yeah.
You've been walking with machetes, and you've also katanas. And you've also been annoyed by the eyesore. Let's be real. I mean, I mean it. Like, I've been on both sides of this as well. Yes. And so there's moments where your social stamina gets so limited. So I have empathy for that. I just don't think that, I mean, there's been time for them to reach out. This is needed to happen. I think that touching on 110, one of the issues with Measure 110 is when they pulled it back, they actually never made anything to actually make it work, because the implementation of the decriminalization of drugs was reliant that they had to have it happen first. And you can go back and when I talked to Chris Wigg about this, that I have talked about this on the podcast. So this is, I mean, this has been documented that in order for it to work, they had to have mental health facilities put in place. In order for that to happen, you had to have this bill passed first.
Right.
So there was going to be a limbo, of time where it was going to be like things could get a little hairy and we could have to see. And, if everybody remembers correctly, Mark Zuckerberg and his wife donated like $500,000 to the campaign to make this happen in Eugene because they saw a micro version of Eugene is a microcosm of a bigger city experience. Unlike, it's hard to find that, where you have 150,000 people so that the issue can maybe be not manageable, but more manageable. You know what I mean? That's one of the things I've read of why they did this is that they did it here first because they saw it as like a place that actually had a pretty open mind when it came to private drug use, because I do think that a lot of people have different opinions on that on the West Coast than in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's nobody's business if somebody wants to go camping with their friends and eat mushrooms, or something like that, so, I mean, that's just, it depends on, go ahead.
Okay. So, but with that, when people would get arrested with drugs, it had to be like over an ounce or over a gram or over an ounce, one of the two, right?
Right.
Okay, so when they would get arrested with the drugs, there was only a couple places that they could go,
right?
Like because Cheshire and Carleton are the only ones like around in Lane County,
right,
where you can be court ordered to go and have to go.
Well, and this is
Serenity Lane. You have to advocate for yourself to get in there.
Yeah,
like they don't want people that are court ordered because those people don't really want to be there. They're just doing it to get out of jail.
Well,
they
it's a
want
business.
People to be in there that really want to do all the hard work.
And it's a business,
Right.
I mean, I went in when I was 23 years old and they literally like ran my credit and they're like, could you get a cosigner? And I'm like,
get a loan?
No, I can't get a cosigner because I'm not going to put this on my parents. I was so young. And they're like, well, you're going to figure this out then because you're good. And I'm like, I'm not good. I was 23 and it took me till I was over 33 to quit drinking. So like,
was that before insurance shit?
Yeah. Like, and I've been a barber since I was 18, so I've never really had health insurance in that way. So, what kind of outreach or transparency would make people feel more included in these types of projects? Like this project going in Springfield, David Lovell's complaint about why he voted no was that he didn't see enough community output. Mm-hmm. State funding of about $14.6 million is lined up in the plan links to Peace Health Behavioral Health Hospital. So, I mean, as a voter and you talked with me off air, and so I don't mean this to be in any way insulting because you said that you don't have the stamina to pay attention to politics. So as an uninformed voter, like a lot of times, and I don't mean that to be an insult because you're the average person. I vote, absolutely, but you do what you're supposed to do, which you pay attention at the last little stretch. That's what a republic is that you get people that do the work so you don't have to. Like that's the whole point, a lot of times. But my point is somebody that would at least say that you don't focus a lot of your energy on your daily life on politics, Oh,
I can't. And
that's fair. So what would you see in a local level that would be much more beneficial for the citizens to have an outreach? Is there a way that you think that you maybe would feel more included in the process?
Well, we don't have the Johnson unit anymore.
Yeah.
We don't have anywhere like that for them.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like if an initiative to get something like this is going to be put in, and there's going to be, a resistance to it, for example, because it is a part of the solution. And if there's going to be a resistance to it from people that are like, well, I don't want that near my house, So I guess, how do we feel like how do we make sure that people feel like they're being heard when big proposals like that, like as a voter?
Well, I mean, whatever happened to having like going and having one of these committee things where there's a panel and we get to go and ask our questions.
I mean, they do happen. The city council meetings, I think that it's just not very well advertised when they happen. And I don't know if they're purposely boring, but like the cadence and the tone of how they go about it is extremely boring. I do encourage people to follow, like on YouTube, you can find the Lane County Commissioners Board meetings and just watch them on YouTube because they are boring, but you can learn a lot from it and you can skip ahead. And nowadays there's chapters so that you could see the issue that maybe you're more interested in. Okay. I don't know. It's a question I like to ask because I think it's super important for people to be heard. Like in River Road area, we had the bus issue where they removed a city councilor. They voted on a recall to remove a city councilor, which it's funny because in Eugene, when you do that, you're going to get someone more liberal is going to be appointed. But that I do believe the stats show that if we don't have more public transportation, we will have gridlock in that part of, because the growth is happening in that area. So there's like,
Everywhere.
and then Main Street Safety Project was absolutely hated, you know, and it was a program that was put in, it was going to be the ODOT coming in and putting in like multiple roundabouts on Main Street, one of which would be on 42nd Street. And I think it would be phenomenal that people could, you wouldn't have to stop, you know, like, and I love it. I love roundabouts, but I spent time in Ireland and
I have trauma from roundabouts.
yeah. And I don't trust the Thurston drivers to do it because I just don't. Just a lot of drivers in this area don't at me.
Don't trust me.
Yes, I just don't. I mean, I've seen that one roundabout that's by Splash, and like I've seen how many it can, yeah. But the point is that in that one, there was so much community outrage that it was a political suicide for any city councilor or any elected official to support it. You know, they lost their seats if they were like rallying for it, which I think there's only like one. But I just really think it's important for people to feel heard in these kind of processes. And so, yes, I see David Lovell's argument. That's what he said, you know, as far as, well, we need to make sure that we have more community input. But he would vote no once because then those people would be like, not in my backyard.
How do they put their input in, though? How do they do that?
I mean, there's a lot of ways.
You
can email, you can go on any city's website and any county's website, and you can find email addresses to every single elected official. And on a level like what we have, you can email Sean Van Gordon, the mayor of Springfield, directly, easily, okay. And he will get back. You know, there's no question. And can they fix your problem? Maybe not. You know, like, I mean, who knows, but will you be heard? Absolutely. You know, and you can go to obviously city council meetings, you know, the Lane County Commissioner meetings, but I think an email to a legislator is the right move. And if there's somebody that, you know, the mayor and the city councilors are nonpartisan seats, but if there's somebody that maybe you just know that you don't share the same political views, that does not matter. In a local community, they will listen to you because what you do share is a love of our town. You know, if you live in Springfield, you may have different reasons you love it, but you still love it, you know, kind of thing. Or we both live in Eugene, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. That's been my experience for the most part, is that you can reach out to these people. Sean Van Gordon in Springfield is a very nonpartisan kind of approach to stuff. So I just think that you can reach out to people. I had an issue that happened where I was living out in Springfield, and there was a neighbor had a bunch of signage for. This is a tough situation. A neighbor had a bunch of signage pro-Trump, which is completely 100% in their right. I would never tell somebody that they can't have a sign on their front yard, you know, because I believe in free speech, absolute. And I was still living with my ex at the time. We had a house out there in Springfield, and she has 2 kids, and they were 16, 17 years old. They came home one day and they were telling us that, you know, we want to rip these signs down. And I'm like, dude, no, absolutely not. Because I am not actually an elected. I'm a precinct committee person for the Democratic Party. I don't do a lot of work with them, but like I am technically on registered as a precinct committee person. But I'm like, no, dude, that's going to be a headline about me, and I represent more than just me. And no, please don't do that. Can I make a couple phone calls and see? All I did was I emailed Sean Van Gordon, and I emailed I can't remember his name. He ran for mayor as well, but he was on the Lane County the LCC board and the sub board. Anyway, we emailed him and I asked, you know, is this going to help or what can we do? And then they contacted the, you know, non-emergency police as well. And basically the issue was someone was trying to take him down. And then the guy that lived at the property came outside and like grabbed the hoe or whatever the guy that was trying to take it down with and like put it to his neck. And the guy was like an old man. Threw him on the ground, and then this got recorded on Snapchat and went around. So my friends saw it, and they're like, "This dude with these Trump signs is doing this." I'm like, "Bro, I don't care. This is not your situation to resolve. It can't be. Unfortunately, we have levels like chain that we have to trust in our systems, you know. And so that outcome, there was a solution. I don't know what happened. But I never saw like I didn't want this to be the case. But a couple of days later, I drive by, there was no signs. The issue was a sign that was hung up on the sub pole. So it was hung up on the Springfield Utility Board pole, which is not his property. That's public. Right. You cannot be sharing political stuff on that.
Right.
So point is that I do think that that's the best method is email your representative. And on the local level, you know, there's a lot of events that happen where I think that it's really important to go. I think the Democratic Party is doing a chili cook-off. I think it's on the 29th. shit like that, right? And I know that this sounds silly, but the thing is that that's where you meet these people at, and it's welcome to everybody. You do not have to be a Democrat to go to something like that, as long as you're in. I mean, you'd still be welcome. It's at Baker Park. The point is to meet the people, that are making these decisions, so that you can advocate for the issues that you have. I've learned so much by doing this podcast that these people are just us. Like I don't. This sounds crazy, but like I don't see it being far fetched that. Fast forward 2 years, someone like yourself gets involved and I'm just saying that that's how reasonable it is to get involved. That any one of us could have the past that we have and still be involved on the city, on the civic level, on the city level. I really, truly believe that, because we are the people, so.
And we've been down there, so we know how to,
Talk a little bit more about advocating for mental health. What are some ways that you like to spend your energy, both individually? I really like what you had said about building your social safety net. Talk a little bit about how you maybe can assist someone else in building a social safety net.
I mean, well, first of all, they have to want it.
Yeah.
They have to want the change.
Right.
And they have to be ready for the change, because unless those are the first two major steps. But I mean, if you are, go get a therapist, go get a psychiatrist, because if you're like me, you're going to need some meds.
Which is totally fine.
It is absolutely fine.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'd rather be on meds that I know are going to actually make me better than to be on drugs that could have.
I've taken escitalopram and for like the last year or so, and I was really rejecting. And I have no judgment on anyone else, but for myself, I wanted to exhaust everything else before I went to drugs. And there is downsides, depending, because there's a slew of side effects and different things. And so I
have
just
no idea what that is.
Escitalopram is basically Lexapro. It's like a generic Lexapro, and it's pretty mild, and what I asked my doctor is what I would like is something that, like, I wanted something that becomes placebo real quick, that's real light, because I started feeling results once I started taking it immediately, which is not how it works. Like, meaning that once I started putting things in motion, I started feeling results, and more like I call myself like a grown-up punk rock kid, but I like structure, so.
Oh yeah. People thrive on it. I mean, I have a special needs childhood that's structured. That is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like you can
Rhythm.
tell when one thing's off.
Right.
Like,
rhythm and just, balance and all that stuff. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be like a prison sentence like this. It can be like a soothing thing, like I'm a big believer that the most important quality in a partnership is to talk openly about finances, like literally to be uncomfortable about it and be okay with separating that from the other parts of your relationship. Good luck finding it, someone that you can have those conversations, but we need to not be so afraid of it. You know what I mean? In ways, it depends on everybody's situation. It's very, 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 very difficult. But my experience is that when you can be on the same page as someone, you can actually grow, and so it's tough to find, but that's for a different day. So moving on, we're last topic. What do you think would make the biggest difference in Lane County right now in terms of mental health?
I mean, I like the idea of this mental health thing coming in.
About the facility.
Yeah.
And I do too.
I think that's something that we definitely need. We don't have the Johnson unit anymore. We don't have Cahoots anymore. And there's nowhere that, like, Salem? Yeah. That's the closest place that people have to go. And they don't even necessarily need to even be locked up. Like, really, they just really need, a lot of them just need to know that someone actually cares.
Yeah.
That someone is there for them, that someone will help them and advocate for them until they can't advocate for themselves.
That's the whole thing when Measure 110 went into effect, that we had to do that first in order to get the funding. And it takes time. And so it's kind of frustrating to see that people, politics are the last 20 minutes, for people. And so a lot of times we don't have the foresight to see the plan actually happen, because when it's happening, it's forgotten how it actually went into effect. Yeah. That being said, if you go back and you listen to the podcast when I talked about Measure 110, I was against it. So clearly I was against it, because I personally see no reason that meth and heroin should be legal. I just don't.
That was a shit show. No offense.
Yes. No. Say what you want. Say what you want.
That was a shit show.
Yeah. And I said that. But that being said, the argument, in order to get the facilities, which we need regardless, it's not, we don't need the facilities because drugs were decriminalized. That is not the case.
What facilities do we get? That was 2 years?
Yeah. But it's still happening.
2 years. Well, no, they recriminalized it.
Yeah, that's my point. We didn't get any. Like
there was nothing.
Yeah.
So where did all that money go? Where did any of that go?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. Like I'm not
because they didn't help. Who did they help?
But I'm not saying that there was it allowed. I'm not super versed on the Oregon State Legislature, but it allowed the funding of facilities. So that money went to this kind of facility. It's sitting there waiting. They have to allocate the money first, and then you can start making how you're going to get it.
Well, Lane County, I now have to explain to my fucking children, my 4 and 5-year-old, why people are on the corner with lighters smoking whatever they are on tinfoil.
Yeah, and there was so many issues. I mean, we had a guy in the barbershop that said that one of the issues that he saw, he left the bar and just like, just a little buzzed up. He didn't realize that he just walked away with his glass in his hand, right? Just like went downtown like he was on Bourbon Street or something, So, and that's an honest mistake, and it's like an $80 ticket for an open container or something like that. But he had a cop. He's like, "Whoa, buddy, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh shit, like I didn't realize I had this, oops, kind of thing." Well, he looked over and he's like, "Dude, there's a dude smoking crack right there." And he's like, "Yeah, but that's not illegal." It's like, what is that? How is that?
Yeah, like
that was what he told us. I want to be clear that I think, well, I believe him. He said it happened. I believe him. But it does. There is stories. Legit. There is stories that happened. That people hear about and then they start repeating and then it gets like, it's not real. I mean, one of the biggest ones was that there was a rumor that like in Harrisburg that there was a kid using a litter box at school, like that they did. and if you Google it, but it's not true.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And it never was true. Yeah. I mean, whatever happened to what country were they from? That in Springfield, Ohio, right before the election, that they were eating animals and stuff. That was never true. What do
you mean eating animals?
JD Vance came out and said that like there was people in Springfield, Ohio eating animals, these immigrants that were brought here that were eating animals. It was absolute lie,
Wait, hold on a minute. But we do eat animals.
Well, I meant dogs, like eating pets.
Oh,
sorry, that's hilarious the way you said that. I forgot. Yeah. Could you believe they were eating cows? No, I actually am from Springfield. So that is true. But in different circles, that's a different conversation. Anyway, that's funny. Is there something happening here that does give you hope? We talk about the things that are negative and the lack or the holes in services and resources. What do you see that gives you hope in Lane County?
The people that are coming out of their mental health and addiction and opening places like RCPC, like the new Willamette family has a new place, and they are the ones that told me about mental health and addiction going hand in hand.
Yeah.
So they're starting to do that like together with mental health therapy and addiction therapy and housing people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good one. I would like to remind people that mental health is often our brain attacking us with negative thoughts. So we can tell someone struggling, including ourselves, how inspiring their vulnerability is and how much they impact our lives. We can get through the crisis before we try to end the cause of the issue. We can't try to reinvent the wheel in the moment. Sometimes it's a process that is one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time, and so I think it's really important when there's a huge or a really highly elevated crisis, and everyone knows what that is in different capacities.
Yeah.
We can't fix the whole thing in that moment. You have to just fix that issue, like the current situation, sometimes, but it also, there's uplifting and positive ways to do it. I think the wrong approach is when we just go at people like, I think saying we're going to get you help. What kind of help would you need? And like making sure that we at least try autonomy. That we try to ask them what they need. Now, I understand when you're walking with a katana, it's a different story. I'm just saying that it's just really important to remember. And I think that as somebody that struggled on both sides of this, it's really difficult. I know that for me, when I had some of my outbursts when I was in my 20s, where I was, some really, there were cries for help. I wouldn't say suicide attempts, but just I wanted to be caught kind of thing. And I wanted to be found because I was hurting so bad. Once I started losing credibility and people started kind of like they were basically not going to like respond to it as well, I kind of started snapping out of it because I started realizing like this isn't actually having good results, and I had to like figure out. It made me bitter inside, but it made me also figure out like I just have to start figuring out how to fix this shit myself, and so that I don't know. So I just think it's really important to the only person that's going to be there for most people is themselves, you know?
Right.
And
At
so
the
I
end of
just
the
think it's
day.
really important to remind yourself that I got this and I've done it before and I can overcome it again, you know, and you just have to just remind yourself that you're a fucking badass sometimes.
And advocate for yourself at these
100%,
places.
100%.
You know, like call all the mental health therapists that you can. Like call and see if they have any openings. Get yourself in there.
Right. Yeah. And you know, there's new resources like AI that can really can quickly get to the heart of at least an abstract view of what to do. You know what I mean? I don't think it's the answer to everything by any means. And I want to say that if anybody's getting relationship advice from AI, they're stupid. If you leave your husband or wife because of what your AI told you, you are being tricked by a corporate company.
I feel like that could be a lawsuit somewhere.
I've been hearing a lot about it.
Google.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about it.
Careful.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Rebekah, for joining and sharing your perspective and experience with this topic. Thanks for listening to the Spent the Rent podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to strpod.com. Also, I'm going to put a link for my GoFundMe in the show notes. Anything helps, guys. I mean, I'm hoping to get back to work as soon as I can, but it's going to be at least a couple months. And this is tough to do the podcast, but I just have to take my time. And I don't know. I get really excited sometimes. I wake up and like I can read small print, and then like I'll drive, and then I come home and the sun to my eye. It's going to be a while, and I'm a little bit scared. I'm not going to lie. So I'll put links in the show notes for my GoFundMe, and if you'd like to support, that would mean so much. And there's a little bit more information about the condition that I'm dealing with. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, you're welcome.